welcome back to our next installment of the Masterclass Q&A series. Today we have the wonderful Jennifer Apple. I'll have her introduce herself.
Hi, Jennifer Apple.
And we're just going to ask her a couple questions today from all of us at ArtsBridge to you so that we can kind of take some of your wisdom. So the first question, how'd you get started in theater? What kind of gave you the theater bug?
Yeah, I feel like it's really not like an exciting story. It's pretty, like standard trajectory. But when I was really young, I don't know, I have cassette tapes, which I imagine a lot of our listeners don't even know what that is, but little cassette tapes of me singing when I was, I don't know, 2, 3 years old type
Oh,
of
wow.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like doing little like pretend shows around the house. And then at some point, my parents, when I was maybe 7, my parents gave me piano lessons and I hated practicing. Obviously, like I wish that they forced me. What kid likes to practice, right?
Yeah.
But then they gave me voice lessons right after that when I was 7 instead of piano, and I fell in love with it. And that was kind of the beginning of it all, where I was always like the singer. And then I went to theater camp when I met like a bunch of other kids who actually also did it, and then started doing community theater. Then in high school, I was doing all the theater, and then in undergrad, and then master's program. It's just kind of like a natural spiral onto it.
Yeah.
Nothing really too exciting, honestly.
So do you think it was like that was always the thing for you, or did you ever have like a moment where you had to choose whether you wanted to pursue it?
Yeah, so I was also, I don't want to like belittle my athletic capabilities. I was actually a sports kid for some time, and I think come high school, I had to like make a choice because you only have so many hours in a day.
Right.
And it was like, do I continue doing sports or do I kind of choose that? So that was like when I was younger, I'd say on a more micro scale. But
Mhm.
when I was older, yeah, I mean, I didn't go to a BFA program. I went to a BA program.
Mhm.
So I wasn't exclusively focusing on theater or musical theater or any of that. So I had come in thinking that I was going to double major in theater and psychology.
Mhm.
And then we had all these other credits that we had to take, and I took a philosophy class, and I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
And then I took a creative writing class, and I was also like, I love this too. So in undergrad, I majored in theater, but double minored in creative writing and philosophy.
Mhm.
So I mean, at some point in my mind, I was like, would I go to law school, or being a lawyer? But like then I thought about like, oh, being a lawyer, the thing that is exciting to me is going into court and basically performing,
Right.
like so I think when I had that realization, it was like, no, you want to do this.
Yeah.
um yeah.
No, that's awesome. And that's so funny. I just started mock trial at my college and, thinking about all the career paths I could take. And it just always feels like for the theater kid to attorney pipeline, it's the theater part that always stands out.
Oh, I mean, first of all, what the Constitution means to me now, everybody has no excuse because it's on Amazon Prime, but
I know.
it was off Broadway and then Broadway.
Yeah.
And the show itself, is she wrote it and built it for 2 gorgeously smart, brilliant, young, gifted kids who
Yeah.
are all on like the debate team or like their Constitution, whatever that team is. But it's
Right.
all that same skill set. And now they're in a Broadway show because it's public speaking. It's how do you not convince other people, we're not talking about lying, but like how do you convince other people that what you're saying is true, which is
Right.
the point. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. And I remember in one of my philosophy classes, one of the professors, like our first day, he had given us a piece of paper, and like on it were the top 3 majors
Mm.
for people who like applied to grad school, the ones that just statistically from undergrad, what they had majored in. And the first one was philosophy, and the second one was theater, and
Yeah.
then the third one was poli-sci, which in my mind makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because yeah, again, you're going in, and how do you present something? How do you share it in a compelling way? It's all storytelling.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I completely agree. And those are the things that just have common threads and everything, rhetoric and being able to express yourself. Um,
Correct.
So do you have like a favorite role or experience that kind of stands out from, you mentioned like doing an undergrad degree in theater and then also a master's, and I'm sure you did a ton in high school and that type of thing. Is there one thing that like glows for you?
Yeah, there's probably two. In grad school, so I went out to American Conservatory Theater out in San Francisco. I
Nice.
got my master's in acting out there, and I did a production of The Good Woman of Szechuan, a Brecht play.
Hmm.
And not just because I was the lead, but it happened to be a really incredible part. The plays, Brecht's plays in general, are just really like we break the fourth wall, and they're very relevant, and
Yeah.
they're political, and they're verbose, and the text is really meaty and interesting. And
Hmm.
so the part that I played, it was kind of, it basically was like four in one. It was this woman named Shantae, her like uncle named Shweta, and also the director, who is so brilliant. But she also built, like, we wrote songs that we used the text from the play. We created songs for it. So I was singing and also breaking the fourth wall as just simply myself. So it was a lot of like character shifting
Hmm.
that I really love. And I'd like to think I'm pretty adept at
Yeah.
being physically able to kind of change my voice, change my body, change um, my physicality kind of on a dime. So it really, really lent itself to using kind of all of me in a really fast, smart, um, creative, and direct way. I'd say that that show will kind of always have a really special place in my heart.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Um,
Right.
it's making me miss, sitting in theaters and that type of thing. It's so hard. Like watching anything,
Yeah,
talking about anything that reminds me.
I
So,
know.
kind of on that note, so how have you been handling the pivot into the online space for the theater industry, and like how have you seen friends handle that? I know you're probably, it's brought people closer together, but it's definitely hard.
Yeah. The shift, I so I had been, I'd say, like, right now it's really just a lot of teaching and coaching. I'm
Yeah.
really, really grateful for my master's degree because of that. And even pre-pandemic, when I was on tour, I was teaching master classes around the country as I was hopping around from city to city. Obviously those were in person at the time, but that was something that I had already been doing, as well as like one-on-one private coaching for mostly, I actually do a lot of BFA and MFA coaching. It's kind of partially my expertise, I'd say. I don't know who's an expert, but it's what I specialize in. And so I had been doing that post grad school on tour and everything. So already that part of myself and my skill set was being used, besides just the performing aspect. So this pivot has really, really thrown me into that space, in a beautiful way. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's how I'm here with all of y'all.
Right.
Um, but so I've been doing a lot of teaching, a lot of coaching, and in some ways that has really, the world has really gotten smaller. I mean, I'm teaching people who are international, like who I would never have otherwise been had access to, or we would never have thought out that this was even a thing.
Mhm.
So my world in that respect has become really small. I recently co-founded a program called the Empowered Artist Collective, which is a community for women seeking a sustainable career in the performing arts, or female identifying folk.
Yeah.
And it's all the training and skills that you never learn in school. I had this like moment over the summer in the pandemic when I've been coaching so much that I realized like so many of these young people are are trained and or like really immersed in their training and like voice lessons and acting classes and scene study, but like no one knows about finances, and nobody knows about mental health and wellness. Nobody knows about like, well, I do all these other things, how do I make that a part of my actual life, as opposed to I'm just a singer, I'm just an actor, I'm just a dancer. No, like
Right.
these skills that you have are actually what's going to make you have a thriving career. How are we able to harness those and finesse those into a beautiful, gorgeous, abundant package, so that it's not just this one thing, right? So we created this program. We're in the middle of our 3-month first cohort. We're going to be starting another one in January. So that's been a really big blessing. But I'd say, in terms of like my performing itself, it's been different and it's been slow.
Yeah.
um, and I think I'm taking it day by day and being really patient with it and understanding also that just because, and I say this in Empowered Artists Collective all the time to the current cohort, it's just like just because you're not performing doesn't make you not an artist.
Right.
And I feel like so often we're told that if unless we're performing, unless we're in a show, then you're not an actor. In
Hmm.
what and who why? Just because
Yeah.
you've taken a moment, like that
Yeah.
doesn't go away, and if anything, sometimes, and I believe this, like sometimes taking a break, be it 2 months, be it a year, be it 6 years, that actually empowers you even more when you finally come back. So I'm really leaning into that and trusting that, especially because I've been teaching so much. How do you teach? How do you coach effectively? You have to be able to like know enough for yourself how to express that. So if anything, it's actually made me a stronger actor by just having to really vocalize and um, channel like what I actually mean from other people.
Right.
So I'm anxious and excited to see how that will pan out once and if, who knows, we come back.
I know. It's interesting. There's so many new things to consider now, and like all the debates over like pro shots and making theater more accessible are like even more
Yeah,
ramped up, and it's
yeah.
crazy.
Which we need to be having. We should have been having forever ago. But I mean, the
Yeah,
fact that we're at least having them now is
helpful for sure.
necessary. Hmm.
So kind of on that, leg, what do you think like the future of theater is if you had to guess, or even if it was in your hands, like what would you
Oh,
ideally want if you were the ringleader?
I'd want a lot of difference. I feel like we, myself included, it's really easy to stay in the grind of things and not take a moment of pause to really reflect on like what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And the blessing and the curse of this time right now is that we're in a pause. And
Mhm.
what can happen in a pause, you evaluate what's working and what's not. And I feel like there are some individuals who are taking the time to really focus on that and be like, okay, this isn't working. This
Yeah.
structure, this system is not working for everyone. It's not. It's not equitable. It's not diverse. It's not inclusive. That is not working. It has not been working. And we've been privileged enough to be able to turn a blind eye to it because it's just the grind needs to happen and you need to book the next thing and you need to keep going and somebody needs to make money and blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And although that's really great, it's not working for people. Certainly not the BIPOC community, certainly not like the disability community. It's really not working for inclusion and accessibility. And I firmly and vehemently believe that that needs to shift. I know for myself, like I have a lot of learning I still need to continue doing, and listening that I need to continue doing. But I think on a more systemic and global scale, I think it really is a trickle down effect. And I think the systems, so starting at the top, really need to take a moment to reflect on how they have been operating, and business cannot return as usual just because you can't unsee what you now see.
Right.
And that would make you ignorant, and that would also really 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 showcase your privilege, and this is a time right now that we need to reassess what that means.
Mhm.
So I know this is like totally heavy, but
No, it's
but,
true.
but I think for me it's a place where where everyone truly has an equal shot, where people recognize their own biases and their own privilege and make space and room for those who have not had it yet. And we figure out how healthcare isn't related to me booking work, and we figure out how we could still be making money without having live theater, and that also, when and if we do go back to in person, that these things that we have learned over the pandemic about virtual spaces are able to somehow be integrated in the long run so that other people who are not based in New York or not based in LA, not based in Chicago, have accessibility to these incredible opportunities.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Hopefully, all of those things are things that come soon, and things that people really will get behind. Because I don't know, sometimes weird times like this are the only things that can actually spark a change. So,
Yeah. I think I'm grateful for it in that, like, in the optimistic part of myself, that's the thing
Right.
that I'm grateful for, where I'm like, this is a really incredible opportunity we would never have otherwise had to be able to create these changes. And
Right.
if we don't take that upon ourselves to do that, that is a missed opportunity we are never going to get again.
Yeah.
So if it's, we should take advantage of that and really shift the way we need to be shifting.
Yes. And I have no doubt that you will be a leader on that front, and you are so incredibly talented. I'm so excited
Thank
for our
you.
masterclass later today. And thank you so much
Yes.
for answering all these questions, Jennifer.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.